Hey guys, in this video we're going to look at how one would go about representing chemical reactions. So just a brief overview of what chemical reactions are about. Chemical reactions are when you have substances interacting with each other to form new substances. So you can think of reactions as basically stuff going in, some processing going on, and then new stuff coming out. Now there are three typical ways that we can represent chemical reactions, and they are listed here. So we can list them as word equations, symbol equations, or structural equations. Now in this video we're going to look at these three different ways of representing chemical reactions in very brief detail. We're also going to identify the common features of these different ways of writing chemical equations. So there are some common rules between them. So let's look at these common features first. Now I would identify three major things. So the first is that the reactants, that is the inputs to the reaction. When I say inputs, it means the stuff that you put into the reaction, the stuff that you start with, are always on the left of the equation. And the products are always on the right. So the products are the stuff that comes out of the reaction, the new stuff that you make. So that's the first common feature. The second is that the reactants and products are separated by an arrow. And an arrow that points from left to right. Let's be clear on that, it's an arrow. I should say not an equal sign, not an equivalent sign, none of these things, okay? Just a clear left to right arrow. The third thing is that any chemical substances on the same side of the equation, any chemical substances on the same side of the equation are separated by plus signs. So these guys. Any chemical substances on the same side, so let's say you have two different chemicals on the reactant side, they will be separated by a plus sign. And if you have four different chemicals on the product side for the same reaction, they would all be separated with plus signs. Okay? Right, so let's have a look at the ways that chemical reactions can be represented. Now the first is the word equations. So represented with word equations. And word equations are by far the simplest. And basically, the names of the chemical substances are used. Super easy. So let's just use as an example the splitting of water. So water, the reactant, is transformed into hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. Hydrogen and oxygen. So water is split into hydrogen and oxygen. You can see that the reactants are on the left and the products on the right. And we have an arrow here separating the reactants and the products. So that's the word equation. What about the symbol equation? So we can represent reactions using symbols. Now, symbol equations use chemical formulae. Chemical formulae of substances. So with the water splitting reaction, the chemical formulae, I'm sorry, use a different color. The chemical formulae for water is H2O. Hydrogen exists as H2, and oxygen exists as O2. Now, another thing that I should add, that with the symbol equations, we have to balance the chemical equations, and we'll explore this idea of balancing chemical equations in later videos on this topic. But it's not just one water molecule splitting into one hydrogen molecule and one oxygen molecule, but it's two water molecules splitting into two hydrogen molecules and one oxygen molecule. All right, so we're going to have to look at that in another video, but just to reinforce this idea that we have the reactants always on the left and products are always on the right. See, we've got the reactants on the left, products on the right, we've got an arrow in the middle separating reactants and products. And I forgot to mention this before, but we have this plus sign in both the word equation and this symbol equation separating the two different products. Okay, so there are two different products, they must be separated by plus signs. Now, the last of the ways that we can represent chemical reactions are structural equations. Now, structural equations, what they use are graphic representations of chemical substances. So going back to our water splitting example, and I don't know what this is. Going back to example of the water splitting, we have water looking like this. This is what H2O looks like. We've got a big oxygen atom and two smaller hydrogen atoms. There are two water molecules that we start off with. We have the reaction arrow between them. And we have our products. We've got two hydrogen molecules and an oxygen molecule. Okay, so we still have the same idea. Reactants on the left, products on the right. Got our reaction arrow, got our plus sign separating the reactants and products. So in this video, we've had a look at the three different ways you might represent a chemical reaction. We've looked at the common elements of these chemical reactions. There will be some further videos just expanding and giving some more detail to each of these different ways of writing chemical reactions. Hope this helped. Thanks for watching, guys.